At 4:18 on a Sunday morning, my 12-year-old nephew collapsed against my front door with his little sister in his arms. He was barefoot. She was wearing one sock. Ice clung to the ends of her hair. Her lips were turning blue. And the first thing Owen said wasn't, "Help us." It was, "Please don't call Dad. He'll be mad we left the yard." For 1 second, I couldn't move. I stood in the doorway of my small rental cottage outside Millbrook, Wisconsin, wearing flannel pajama pants and an old hospital sweatshirt, staring at two children who looked as though the winter had tried to swallow them whole. Then 7-year-old Maisie made a thin whistling sound against her brother's chest. I knew that sound. I had spent 14 years working as a respiratory therapist at St. Vincent County Hospital. I had heard airways tighten in emergency rooms, ambulances, rehabilitation wards, and pediatric units. But I had never heard that sound come from my niece. "Owen, give her to me." My voice came out calmer than I felt. He tried to step forward. His knees folded. I caught Maisie before he fell onto the porch. She felt frighteningly light. Her pink nightgown was wet around the hem. A filthy moving blanket had been wrapped around her shoulders, and beneath it, she wore Owen's green winter coat. He had given her his coat. He had walked more than a mile through freezing rain without one. I carried Maisie inside and laid her on my couch. My training took over. Check her breathing. Keep her still. Warm her core. Call for help. Do not let the children see you panic. "Owen, come inside." He crawled across the threshold because he could no longer stand. I kicked the door shut and called 911. My niece is 7 years old and in severe respiratory distress. She has asthma and possible hypothermia. My nephew is 12 conscious, but he has cold exposure and possible frostbite. Send an ambulance to 118 Willow Creek Road. While the dispatcher asked questions, I wrapped Maisie in blankets and searched the pockets of Owen's coat. No inhaler. "Where is her rescue inhaler?" "Inside," Owen whispered. His teeth struck together so violently that the word broke apart. "Inside where?" "Our house." "What happened?" He looked toward the front door as if someone might be standing on the other side. The code didn't work. Maisie's breathing tightened. I retrieved the portable nebulizer I kept in the bathroom cabinet, assembled it, and placed the mask over her face. "You're at Aunt Nora's," I told her. "You're safe." Her eyelids fluttered. "Owen, he's right here." Only then did she stop trying to lift her head. I wrapped Owen in my heaviest comforter and moved him beside the heating vent. His pajama bottoms were soaked to the thighs. His feet were red, scraped, and pale around 3 toes. He watched me examine them without complaining. Children who feel safe complain. Children who have learned that pain annoys adults stay quiet. That realization frightened me almost as much as his feet. The sirens were still several minutes away when Owen caught my wrist. Mom said to wait in the shed. I looked at him. What? She knew we were outside. The room seemed to tilt. She told us to wrap up and wait until morning. Before I could ask another question, Maisie began coughing beneath the mask. I turned back to her. There would be time for anger later. If I allowed it into the room now, it would take up all the oxygen. The ambulance arrived 6 minutes after my call. 2 paramedics rushed inside. One moved toward Maisie while the other checked Owen's pulse and temperature. What were they doing outside? The older paramedic asked. I'm still finding out. Owen looked sharply at me. Please, he whispered again. Dad said we weren't supposed to bother anybody. The paramedic stopped moving for half a second. I knelt in front of Owen. You did not bother me. He stared at me. You could knock on my door every night for the rest of your life, and you would never be a bother. His eyes filled, but no tears fell. He looked as though I had spoken in a language he almost remembered. Then the paramedic lifted him onto the stretcher. As they rolled the children toward the ambulance, I looked back at my living room. Mud and melted ice marked the floor. The dirty moving blanket lay beside the couch. One small wet sock rested near the coffee table. It should have looked like a mess. Instead, it looked like proof that someone had finally opened a door. I rode in the ambulance with them. Maisie lay beneath warming blankets with oxygen covering the lower half of her face. Owen sat strapped to the bench beside me, his feet wrapped in insulated pads. For the first few miles, he said nothing. Freezing rain dragged silver lines across the windows. I held his hand. It was still cold. What time did your parents leave? I asked. A little after 5. Yesterday afternoon. He nodded. Where did they go? Milwaukee. Nearly 2 hours away in good weather. Why? They had a dinner for the restaurant. My brother Grant and his wife Paige ran Bennett's Market and Grill, a roadside diner our father had opened 41 years earlier. Dad built it with second-hand equipment, borrowed tools, and more optimism than money. For most of my childhood, the restaurant was our second home. I washed dishes there at 13. I baked pies beside Dad during high school. I handled the books when he became too sick to stay late. Grant worked there too. But after Dad died, Mom said the restaurant should go to him. Grant has a wife and children, she told me. You only have yourself. I received Dad's old motorcycle and 3 boxes of photographs. Grant received the building, the business, and the right to tell everyone he was carrying on Dad's legacy. He still called me when payroll was wrong. He still expected me to babysit when Paige had events. He still asked me to fill in when employees quit. But when Bennett's Market celebrated its 40th anniversary, Paige posted a photograph captioned, 4 generations of Bennett family tradition. Grant, Paige, Mom, Owen, and Maisie stood beneath the restaurant sign. I had baked all 12 pies for the event. I was not in the picture. When I asked Grant why, he laughed. You're not involved in the business anymore, Nora. I stopped helping after that. Or at least I told myself I had. The truth was uglier. I also stopped visiting as often because seeing Grant behind Dad's counter made me angry. I told myself the children looked fine. I told myself Owen was quiet because he was shy. I told myself Maisie was thin because she was a picky eater. Distance made it easier not to ask questions. That failure belonged to me. But what happened during the storm belonged to their parents. Who stayed with you? I asked Owen. No one. I thought I had misheard him over the engine. What? Mrs. Ralston was supposed to come, but her husband got sick. When did your parents find out? Before they left. The paramedic across from us slowly lifted his eyes. And they still went. Dad said I was almost 13. Owen's mouth tightened. He said kids used to work farms at my age. I looked toward Maisie. She was 7 years old and weighed less than some 5-year-olds I had treated. What did they leave you for dinner? Frozen chicken strips. Did you eat? The oven started smoking, so I turned it off. You did the right thing. What did you eat instead? Maisie had cereal. What did you eat? He shrugged. That shrug told me enough. Tell me how you got locked outside. Copper started barking around 10. Copper was their beagle, a clumsy brown dog with one white ear. The wind pushed the back gate open. Owen continued. I saw him run past the kitchen window. I put on my coat and went after him. Where was Maisie? I told her to stay inside. His voice thinned with shame. But she got scared when I didn't come back. She came outside too. That wasn't your fault. I was supposed to watch her. You are her brother, Owen. I tightened my hand around his. You are not her parent. He flinched at the word. I caught Copper near the shed, but he ran again. Then the mudroom door slammed. Couldn't you use the keypad? I tried. The code didn't work. Did you call your parents? My phone was inside. Maisie had her tablet. Could it make calls? Through the family app. How many times did you call? 12. My free hand curled against my leg. Did anyone answer? Mom sent a voice message after midnight. What did she say? His face went flat. She said they were in the middle of an important dinner. She told me to stop making everything sound like an emergency. The paramedic's jaw tightened. What did you tell her? That the door code didn't work. That Maisie's inhaler was inside. And she told you to wait in the shed. He nodded. Until they came home after brunch. They had known. Grant and Paige knew their children were locked outside during a Wisconsin ice storm. And they stayed at dinner. The shed had old patio cushions, Owen continued. I made Maisie a bed. There was a blanket in a plastic bin, but mice had chewed it. He spoke faster now, as if he needed to get the story out before it trapped him. We stayed there for a long time. Then she started coughing. Maisie's asthma had been diagnosed when she was 4. I had shown Grant how to recognize an attack. I had explained why cold air could be dangerous and why her inhaler needed to stay nearby. He called me dramatic. Paige said she refused to let medical fear control their lifestyle. What happened after she started coughing? Owen looked at his sister. I could hear her breathing getting smaller. Not louder. Not worse. Smaller. So I wrapped her in the moving blanket and gave her my coat. He rubbed his thumb over my knuckles. I thought about going to Mrs. Alvarez's, but her porch was dark. Your house was farther, but I knew you worked nights. I came home early. What? My shift ended early because of the storm. Usually, I would still have been at the hospital at 4:18. Had my supervisor not released me 2 hours early, Owen would have reached an empty cottage. The thought made my stomach turn. How did you get there? Through the drainage path behind the soccer fields. In this weather, it was shorter. You carried Maisie, mostly. His lower lip trembled. She tried to walk near the church, but she fell. Then she said she wanted to sleep. He looked at me. You said not to let someone who is freezing go to sleep. I had said that 2 years earlier during a family ice fishing trip. Owen remembered. He remembered while the adults responsible for him were eating beneath chandelier light. You saved her life, I said. He shook his head. You did. Number. I squeezed his hand. I opened the door. You got her to it. That was when Owen finally cried. He made no sound. The tears simply moved down his cheeks while he kept holding my hand. Maisie was taken directly into the pediatric emergency unit at St. Vincent. Her body temperature was dangerously low. The cold had triggered a severe asthma attack, and the doctors were concerned about early pneumonia. Owen had mild frostbite and 3 toes cuts along both feet and dehydration. By sunrise, Officer Raymond Ellis had taken my statement. When I repeated what Owen said about Paige's voice message, he looked toward the treatment room. Is the tablet still at the house? Owen nodded. Do you know the password? Yes. We'll collect it. Owen's face changed immediately. Am I in trouble? Officer Ellis pulled a chair closer. No, son. But I left the yard. You left because your sister couldn't breathe, Dad said. Your father is not the person deciding whether you did something wrong this morning. Owen went silent. Officer Ellis lowered his voice. You did exactly what you needed to do. A child welfare caseworker named Denise Rowe arrived later that morning. She did not begin by opening a folder. She began by watching Owen. She noticed how he followed every adult entering the room. She noticed that he apologized when a nurse adjusted his blanket. She noticed that he asked whether Maisie's hospital breakfast would cost extra. After speaking with him privately, Denise found me near the vending machines. The children will not be released to their parents, she said. Relief came first. Then fear. Where will they go? That depends on whether a safe relative can be approved. I'm available. The answer left my mouth immediately. Denise studied me. You work overnight shifts. I can request leave. You rent. I have a stable lease. How many bedrooms? 2. The second one is full of boxes, but I can clear it. She closed her folder. I can inspect tomorrow afternoon. And if it isn't ready, they may need an emergency foster placement. The coffee cup bent in my hand. Owen had carried his sister through an ice storm to reach me. I was not going to let him wake up in a stranger's house because I had used my second bedroom for storage. I'll be ready. Denise nodded once. I hope so. At 8:10, I heard my brother before I saw him. What do you mean I'm not allowed to see my own children? Grant's voice traveled through the hallway like a slammed door. He appeared in a wrinkled charcoal suit, his collar open, a red event stamp still visible on his wrist. Paige followed him in a cream-colored dress beneath an expensive coat. Her makeup was smudged, but her phone was already in her hand. Behind them came my mother, Darlene. Mom wore her church coat over a nightgown and looked frightened, confused, and ready to defend Grant before she knew what had happened. Nora, she said. What happened? I stared at her. You didn't call me, Grant said. Your children arrived at my door half frozen. That isn't what I asked. No, I didn't call you. The police did. Paige pressed a hand to her chest. Where's Maisie? I need to see my baby. She's being treated. I'm her mother. A fact she could have used 6 hours ago. Grant stepped closer. Watch yourself. Mom touched my sleeve. Nora, everyone is scared. This is not the time to attack anybody. I looked at her hand until she removed it. Maisie's oxygen level was 79 when she arrived. Mom's face changed. Owen has frostbite. He carried her to my house because neither parent came home. It was a misunderstanding, Grant said. A misunderstanding is forgetting a school lunch. We had a sitter. She canceled before you left. Grant's eyes flicked toward Owen's room. He told you that. He told the police. Paige's voice sharpened. Owen gets confused when he's upset. My anger became very still. Your son crossed frozen ground barefoot while carrying your daughter. And now you think he's confused? We did not know they were outside. He said you sent him a voice message. For 1 second, Paige's expression emptied. Then the performance returned. I was at a crowded dinner. I couldn't hear him clearly. He said the door was stuck. I assumed he meant the shed door. You told him to stay there until morning. I was trying to keep him calm. You told him to stop making it sound like an emergency. Grant moved between us. This conversation is over. Number. I looked at him. It is finally beginning. Mom turned toward him. Grant, did you know they were outside? He rubbed both hands over his face. The keypad malfunctioned. Technology fails. Then you drive home. Do you understand what last night meant for the restaurant? We had investors at that table. Employees are depending on us. We had one chance to secure the second location. Your daughter couldn't breathe. We didn't know that. Owen told you her inhaler was locked inside. Grant's jaw tightened. We will discuss this after I see my children. You're not seeing them until Denise approves it. He stared at me. You called child services. The hospital did. But you gave them your version. I gave them the truth. Grant stepped closer. For most of my life, that had been enough to make me retreat. Grant had always been louder, bigger, and more certain that his needs mattered. That morning, something in me stopped cooperating. He lowered his voice. I know your car loan has been bothering you. I stared at him. What? I'll pay it off. Mom's mouth fell open. All of it, he continued. Today. Paige looked away, but she did not seem surprised. Tell Denise you panicked, Grant said. Say Owen was confused and you overreacted because of your job. You're trying to buy my silence. I'm trying to keep one bad night from destroying an entire business. There it is. What? The business. I pointed toward Maisie's room. She is fighting to breathe and you are worried about brunch reservations. His expression hardened. You have no idea what it takes to build something people care about. Dad built that restaurant. I made it relevant. You removed his pictures, doubled the prices, and taught your wife how to film pancakes. Paige stepped forward. You have always resented what we have. What do you have, Paige? She looked me up and down. You live alone in a rented cottage. You work nights. You don't have a husband or children. Her mouth twisted. Children need a real family, Nora. Not a lonely woman turning them into a rescue project. The words hit the oldest bruise in me. For one terrible second, I wondered whether she was right. I had resented Grant. I had avoided their house. I had wanted a family of my own and never built one. Maybe part of me did want to be needed. The doubt lasted only a moment. Then I remembered Owen on my porch. Need was not the same as love, and wanting to be useful did not make what I saw untrue. My house was warm when your children reached it, I said. Grant's hand closed around my upper arm. Stop talking. His fingers dug into my skin. I looked down at his hand. Let go. You do not get to take my children and act like a hero. I didn't take them. I pulled my arm free. You left them. Dad. Owen sat in a wheelchair at the end of the hallway. A nurse stood behind him. His bandaged feet rested on padded supports. His face was pale, but his eyes were fixed on Grant. You knew, Owen said. Grant went rigid. Owen, this is adult business. I told you Maisie couldn't breathe. Son, you were frightened. You probably didn't explain it clearly. I sent you a video. The hallway became silent. Paige turned toward Grant. What video? Owen's voice shook. I showed her in the shed. I showed you her face. Grant looked around and realized nurses, patients, and Officer Ellis were watching. His voice changed immediately. We will discuss this privately. Number. Owen gripped the arms of his wheelchair. You always make us talk privately, because then you say we remembered wrong. Grant moved toward him. Officer Ellis stepped between them. That is close enough. This is my son, and right now he has asked you to stay away. Mom stood beside Paige with one hand over her mouth. I expected her to look at Owen. Instead, she looked at Grant. Fix this, she whispered. That sentence told me where her loyalty still lived. Grant turned toward me. You did this. No, I said. You finally did it where people could see. I left the hospital shortly after noon. My supervisor approved emergency family leave before I finished explaining. You take care of those kids, Maria Cortez told me. We'll cover your shifts. I drove home through sleet with a list repeating in my head. Beds, sheets, clothes, food, smoke detectors. My second bedroom had become a graveyard for things I did not know how to release. Boxes from Dad's house, Mom's old decorations, a desk covered in unopened mail, and in the center stood Dad's motorcycle. It was a faded blue Honda Shadow. Nothing rare, nothing luxurious. Dad and I had restored it during the final summer before his heart attack. When I sat on that motorcycle, I remembered him before the restaurant consumed every hour of his life. I remembered grease beneath his fingernails, country music playing from an old radio, and the way he taught me to listen to an engine instead of forcing it. Selling it felt like selling the last proof that Dad and I had belonged to each other. I stood beside it for a long time. Then I pictured Owen at my door without shoes. I posted the motorcycle online. A retired mechanic from Green Bay arrived that afternoon with a trailer and $4,300 in cash. He walked around the bike slowly. Somebody loved this machine. My father did. You sure you want to sell? Number. He waited. But I need to. Before loading it, he placed one hand on the seat. I'll keep it covered. That almost undid me. After he drove away, I stood in the empty room and cried. Not for 2 controlled minutes. Not with dignity. I sat on the floor and cried until my throat hurt. I cried for Dad, for the children, for every time I had allowed my family to call me useful instead of loved. Then I wiped my face and started carrying boxes. My co-worker Tasha arrived with twin beds her sons had outgrown. Maria brought groceries, winter coats, and a lamp shaped like a moon. My neighbor Mr. Flores installed a smoke detector and repaired the bedroom window. Nobody asked why Grant and Paige owned a 4-bedroom house while their children needed donated beds. They simply worked. By evening, the storage room had become a bedroom. The beds did not match. One headboard was white, the other dark brown. The quilts came from different stores. The bookshelf leaned slightly to the left, but the mattresses were clean. The window locked. The closet held clothes in the correct sizes. There were inhalers in the cabinet, cereal in the pantry, milk in the refrigerator, and a star-shaped nightlight beside Maisie's bed. When Denise inspected the house the next afternoon, she checked every cabinet window, smoke alarm, and medicine container. Then she looked at the beds. Were these here yesterday? Number. Her eyes moved toward the empty space near the side door. There was something large there. My motorcycle. Where is it? I sold it. For the children. For what they needed. Denise closed her folder. This may be temporary. I know. It may become longer. I know that too. Are you prepared for longer? I looked around the imperfect room. Yes. She uncapped her pen. The home is approved. My knees nearly gave out. You can bring Owen home tomorrow. Maisie may need another day. Then her expression became serious. These children have experienced more than one bad night. How much more? We're still learning. She paused at the door. Their parents are already telling relatives that you are using this to punish them. I expected that. Expect it to get worse. She opened the door. People who build their lives around appearances become dangerous when the appearance begins to crack. Owen came home the following morning. He entered slowly on crutches and stopped in the living room. My cottage was 1/3 the size of his parents' house. The couch had a repaired tear beneath one cushion. The dining table came from a thrift store. A water stain marked the kitchen ceiling. Then he smelled the chicken soup on the stove. Is that for us? It's for whoever is hungry. He remained near the door. Do I need to ask? To eat. He nodded. Number. What if it's something you bought for later? Then I'll buy more later. He looked toward the pantry. Can I have cereal too? You can have cereal, soup, sandwiches, fruit, or all of them. His face became suspicious. All of them. Owen, food in this house is not a test. He lowered his eyes. We weren't supposed to eat the restaurant food. Why? Mom said it was counted. Grant and Paige had built their public image around food. Every weekend, Paige posted photographs of cinnamon rolls, fried chicken pies, and overflowing family tables. Her caption said, "Nothing matters more than feeding the people you love." Meanwhile, her son needed permission to pour cereal. Owen ate 2 bowls of soup, half a grilled cheese sandwich, and apple and cereal. Afterward, he apologized. For what? I ate a lot. You were hungry. Dad said boys who eat like that get expensive. I sat across from him. Being hungry is not bad behavior. His spoon stopped moving. Okay. He did not believe me yet. But okay was a beginning. Maisie came home 2 days later. She still needed breathing treatments, but she was stable. Owen waited beside the bedroom door. Close your eyes, he told her. She obeyed. He guided her inside. Now. Maisie opened her eyes and saw the beds. On her sat a stuffed fox beside a purple blanket covered in stars. She touched the blanket as though it might disappear. This is mine. Yes. For how many sleeps? As many as you need. She looked at Owen. Are we staying until Mom isn't mad? The room became still. Owen looked toward me, waiting for an answer he did not have to create himself. You are staying until adults make sure you are safe, I said. What if Mom says she's sorry? Being sorry matters. I knelt beside her. But adults also have to change what they do. Maisie considered that. Mom says sorry when people can hear. Owen closed his eyes. I took her hand. In this house, sorry means something has to be different afterward. That night, she woke screaming when the bedroom door moved in the wind. I found her on the floor between the beds. The door shut, she gasped. It's open. I turned on the hallway light. Look, you're inside. Is Owen inside? He's right here. Her brother was already awake, sitting with a blanket around his shoulders. Is Copper inside? That question hurt most. Copper had not been found. We're still looking, I said. Owen climbed down despite the pain in his feet and sat beside her. I shouldn't have gone after him. Number. I sat on the floor with both children. Copper running away was an accident. Your parents leaving you alone was a decision. I looked at Owen. Those are not the same thing. We stayed there until sunrise. Mom came by 3 days later. She brought a casserole and Grant's excuses. I'm not here to argue, she announced. That usually means you are. She placed the dish on my counter. I want to see my grandchildren. They're meeting with their school counselor. Already. Don't you think you're making this too serious? They nearly died. Mom flinched. Grant made a terrible mistake. He made several decisions over many hours. The restaurant employs 23 people. If this becomes public, families could lose their jobs. Owen spent an entire night trying to keep Maisie alive. That isn't fair. No, Mom. It wasn't. She lowered her voice. Your brother believed Owen could handle one evening. Owen is a child. He's mature, because he has been forced to be. You've always disliked the way Grant raised them. I disliked watching him treat them like props. That's cruel. Paige posts family meals every week. Owen told me he wasn't allowed to eat the food because it had to be photographed. They probably misunderstood. There it is. What? Every time the children describe something painful, you decide they misunderstood. I pointed toward the hallway. Every time Grant says something convenient, you call it truth. I am trying to keep this family together. Which family? She stared at me. The children in this house. Or the adults smiling beneath the restaurant sign. Her eyes filled. You've always believed I loved Grant more. This is not about what I believe. It's why you're doing this. You think I sold Dad's motorcycle and rearranged my life because I'm jealous? You sold the motorcycle. For the first time, her defensiveness disappeared. Yes, Nora, your father left that to you. And Grant left his children to me. Mom sat down. She looked toward the bedroom hallway. What else don't I know? That depends on whether you're ready to hear it. I'm still their grandmother. Then be their grandmother. I am. Number. I held her gaze. You have been Grant's mother. The words landed between us. Being their grandmother means believing them even when the truth embarrasses your son. Mom picked up her purse. I need time. Owen and Maisie needed you before the truth became uncomfortable. She left without seeing them. The casserole remained untouched. That evening, the family group chat erupted. An aunt accused me of enjoying the attention. A cousin said children belonged with their real parents. Paige's sister claimed I had always wanted a family and was using tragedy to fill a void. For 10 angry minutes, I typed a post. I attached screenshots. I almost uploaded the video of Owen standing in the shed. I wanted to make every person who called me jealous hear Maisie struggling to breathe. My finger hovered over the button. Then Owen entered the kitchen. What are you doing? I turned the phone over. Nothing. He looked at me too long. For the first time since the hospital, I felt ashamed. I had nearly turned his worst night into a weapon because I was tired of being insulted. That was exactly what Paige did with family photographs. I deleted the post. Later, I told Owen the truth. I almost shared your video. Why? Because people were lying about me. He looked down. Did you? Number. Why not? Because it belongs to you, not to my anger. He nodded slowly. That moment changed something between us. He did not need a perfect adult. He needed one who could admit when she nearly made the wrong choice. Denise's investigation confirmed enough to show that the storm was not an isolated failure. The children's refrigerator held restaurant sauces, sparkling water, and almost nothing they could prepare themselves. Owen's bedroom had been partly converted into Paige's filming space. Maisie's rescue inhaler had expired months earlier. Their neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, admitted she had been leaving grocery bags by her side door because Owen sometimes used money from shoveling driveways to buy cereal and school lunches. I did not need 10 more examples. Those 3 were enough. Enough to understand why Owen asked permission to eat. Enough to understand why Maisie hid crackers beneath her pillow. Enough to understand that the beautiful house had never felt like a home. Grant and Paige were allowed one supervised video call. Paige began by crying. Mommy misses you so much. Maisie moved behind my shoulder. Grant leaned toward the camera. Owen, tell them your mother and I have always provided for you. The supervisor interrupted. You may not discuss the investigation. I'm discussing our family. You are pressuring a child. Grant ignored her. Owen, tell them. Owen stared at the screen. Why? Because it's true. Then why do I have to say it? Grant's expression changed. You've been spending too much time around your aunt. The supervisor ended the call. That night, Owen asked whether he had been disrespectful. Number. He says I make him look bad. People who behave well rarely need children to protect their reputation. He picked at the edge of his worksheet. What if the restaurant closes because of me? The restaurant is not your responsibility. But Grandma said people could lose their jobs. Your grandmother should never have placed that on you. He was quiet. Would Grandpa be mad? Dad had adored Owen when he was small. Number. How do you know? Because your grandfather cared more about feeding people than impressing them. I swallowed. And because he would have driven through that storm the moment you called. Owen returned to his homework. His shoulders loosened. The following evening, Paige went live on social media. She sat beneath a framed photograph of herself and Grant at the restaurant's reopening. Her hair was styled. Her eyes were rimmed in red. The lighting made every tear shine. The title read, "A Mother's Truth." How my children were taken from me. Within minutes, thousands were watching. Our family experienced a terrible accident involving a defective door lock, she began. Our children became frightened and made the understandable decision to walk to a relative's home. They were never abandoned. My hand tightened around the phone. Unfortunately, my sister-in-law Nora has always carried resentment toward our family. Comments raced beneath the video. Page continued, "Nora has struggled with loneliness. She has spoken for years about wanting children. Instead of helping us privately, she used her medical position to exaggerate what happened and present herself as a savior." Then she held up a photograph of Owen and Maisie smiling beside 2 plates of pancakes. "I am their mother. I am fighting to bring them home." A donation link appeared beneath the video. Bennett Family Reunification and Business Recovery Fund. By morning, strangers were calling me a kidnapper. My hospital received messages demanding that I be fired. One person posted a photograph of my cottage. Maria asked me to come in. I entered the administrator's office expecting careful words about public pressure. Instead, she placed a folder on the table. "We reviewed the emergency call, the children's medical records, and your actions before the ambulance arrived." I folded my hands. "I understand if I need to remain off the schedule." "You misunderstand," Maria said. "We are not disciplining you." I stared at her. "You followed emergency protocol. You saved a child's life. Nothing about your professional conduct is in question." "The calls are affecting the hospital." "Yes, because people are calling based on lies." The administrator moved the folder aside. "Our public statement will confirm that we found no employee misconduct. We will not reveal private details." "You believe me?" Maria's expression softened. "We have facts." For days, Grant and Paige had made truth feel fragile. Inside that room, it became solid again. Maria reached across the table. "You are not alone." I cried in the parking garage afterwards. My family had trained me to expect support to disappear the moment helping me became inconvenient. The hospital reminded me that respect could mean standing beside someone when the truth became expensive. Officer Ellis recovered the children's tablet. It contained 12 unanswered calls to Grant, 9 to Paige, and 3 videos. In the first, Owen stood beneath the porch light while wind tore at his pajamas. "Dad, the code isn't working, we're outside. Call me." Maisie could be heard crying behind him. The second was recorded inside the shed. The tablet screen provided the only light. "Mom, her inhaler is inside," Owen said. "Please come home." Paige replied 6 minutes later. Her voice was clear. "Owen, your father is about to give an important toast. We cannot keep walking away from the table because you two refuse to follow instructions. Get into the shed, wrap up, and stop frightening your sister. We will deal with the door when we get home." The third video was recorded at 2:07 in the morning. Owen's face filled the screen. He was crying. "Dad, I'm going to Aunt Nora's. Maisie says her chest hurts. Please answer, please." There was no reply. The lock history showed that Grant had changed the entry code remotely while demonstrating the system to dinner guests. When Owen said the code did not work, Grant did not check the app. He did not unlock the door. He did not call a neighbor. He returned to his dinner. The technology had not failed. The adults had. I watched the videos once. What destroyed me was not Maisie's coughing. It was Owen's voice. In the first video, he expected his father to help. In the second, he tried to negotiate. In the third, he no longer expected anyone to come. He was simply announcing that he would save his sister alone. That was the part I could not forgive. The moment a 12-year-old boy stopped asking his parents for help because he understood they had chosen not to answer. 2 weeks later, Grant announced the 41st anniversary celebration of Bennett's Market. He rented the Millbrook Community Hall. There would be local vendors, music, a speech about Dad's legacy, and a family unity fundraiser. Grant also planned to tell the town that I had manipulated Owen. "Mom came to my cottage the night before the event. I need to talk to you. The children are asleep. I'm not here to see them." "Then why are you here?" "Grant says he's going to file complaints against your hospital. He can file whatever he wants. He says he'll prove the children were happy by showing family photographs. Children can smile in pictures and still be neglected." Mom rubbed her hands together. "I heard there are recordings." "There are. Are they as bad as people say?" "Worse." She looked down. "Please don't play them tomorrow." I stared at her. "You came here to protect him again. I came here because once those recordings are public, there is no going back. There was no going back when Maisie's lips turned blue. Nora, the restaurant is all we have left of your father. Number. I stepped closer. The children are what we have left of this family. Mom began crying. He is my son. And Owen is his. I know. No, Mom. You know the words. You still haven't chosen what they mean. She wiped her face. What do you want from me? I want you to stop asking children to carry the cost of protecting adults. She stood near the door for a long time. Then she whispered, I don't know what I'll do tomorrow. At least that's honest. I discussed the anniversary with Denise, the children's counselor, and Owen. You don't have to hear the recordings again, I told him. He traced a scratch in the kitchen table. Are Mom and Dad still saying I lied? Yes. Does Grandma believe me? I think part of her does. Because of the tablet. Yes. He stared toward the hallway. People believe phones more than kids. The words hurt because they were true. Sometimes adults listen only when ignoring the truth becomes impossible. Will Maisie's coughing be played? Number. Can you play Mom's message? Only if you want me to. He thought for a long time. I want them to know I told her. You never needed to prove that to me. I know. His eyes met mine. But I'm tired of Dad saying I remembered wrong. More than 200 people filled the community hall. Long tables were decorated with mason jars, artificial greenery, and photographs from the restaurant's history. Dad flipping burgers behind the original counter. Grant wearing an apron at 10 years old. Grant and Paige cutting the ribbon after the renovation. Owen and Maisie smiling beside pancakes. There was only one photograph of me. It had been taken after Dad's funeral. I stood at the edge. Half my body had been cropped out by the frame. Even while trying to prove he valued family, Grant had erased the person he accused of stealing it. Mom met me near the entrance. You came. I'm here for Owen. Her eyes moved towards the children standing with Denise near the exit. You brought them. Owen chose to come. He wore clean jeans and Dad's old red flannel shirt. For a moment, he looked so much like my father that I could not speak. Are you sure I asked him? Number. It was the most honest answer possible, but I still want to. The program began at 7. A musician played 2 songs. A city council member praised Bennett's Market. Then Grant approached the microphone. He looked polished, rested, and confident. My father believed a restaurant should feel like home, he began. Applause moved through the room. He taught me that family is the foundation of everything. I glanced at Owen. His face remained still. Over the past month, our family has faced an unimaginable attack. The hall quieted. Our children were removed after a household accident was deliberately misrepresented by someone we trusted. Several people turned toward me. Grant placed both hands on the podium. My sister Nora has convinced authorities that one frightening night defines 12 years of loving parenthood. Paige sat near the stage, her eyes lowered. Nora has always struggled to find her place in this family. Instead of helping us heal, she used our children's fear to punish me for old resentment. Mom shifted beside me. Grant looked directly at me. I forgive my sister. The cruelty of that sentence was almost elegant. He was forgiving me publicly for saving his children. And I pray she finds the courage to return Owen and Maisie to the parents who love them. Applause began. Not everyone joined, but enough did. Then Owen released Maisie's hand. He walked down the center aisle. The applause weakened. Grant saw him and went pale. Owen, my nephew, stopped several feet from the stage. You said I lied. Grant glanced toward the crowd. This is not the place. You made it the place. Nobody moved. Grant stepped away from the microphone. Son, come with me. Owen backed up. Number. His voice shook, but it carried. I called you 12 times. Grant's smile became strained. We have discussed how frightened you were. You changed the code. Whispers moved through the hall. Grant looked toward Denise. This child should not be here. He chose to attend, she said. Grant turned to me. What have you done? I walked toward the sound table. Something you should have done weeks ago. I connected my phone to the speakers. Paige stood. You cannot use private recordings. The recording belongs to Owen. This is exploitation. Owen looked at her. You used my school picture to ask strangers for money. Paige sat down. I played the first clip. Owen's frightened voice filled the hall. Dad, the code isn't working. We're outside. Call me. Wind roared behind him. I stopped the recording before Maisie could be heard clearly. Then I played Paige's response. Owen, your father is about to give an important toast. We cannot keep walking away from the table because you two refuse to follow instructions. Get into the shed, wrap up, and stop frightening your sister. We will deal with the door when we get home. The message ended. Silence settled over the room. It was not ordinary silence. It was the kind that arrives when a lie has been holding up an entire room and suddenly disappears. Grant gripped the podium. You do not understand the context. A man near the front spoke. What context makes that okay? Grant ignored him. The children were supposed to remain inside. Owen looked at his father. Copper got out. So you broke the rules. I was trying to bring him back. You should have waited. Maisie couldn't breathe. You exaggerate when you panic. Owen's face changed. For years, Grant had used that sentence to make his son doubt himself. This time, 200 people heard it. Owen reached into his pocket and unfolded a piece of paper. His hands trembled. I did not want to take my sister outside, he read. He swallowed. I did not want to walk to Aunt Nora's house. I wanted my parents to come home. Grant looked toward the exit. No one helped him. I called because Maisie needed her inhaler. Mom told me to wait in the shed. Dad changed the code and didn't tell us. His voice cracked. When Maisie stopped talking, I knew I couldn't wait anymore. He looked around the hall. Aunt Nora did not steal us. Then he turned toward me. She opened the door. Maisie began crying beside Denise. Owen faced his mother. I don't want you to tell strangers that you miss me. Paige covered her mouth. I wanted you to answer when I called. Mom stepped into the aisle. Grant. He looked at her. Did you watch his video? His eyes moved across the crowd. Mom, not now. Did you see Maisie in that shed? This is complicated. Did you see her? Grant said nothing. Mom's shoulders dropped. For the first time in my life, she looked at him without rearranging the truth to protect him. You left them. Grant's face hardened. You're choosing her too. Mom looked at me, then at Owen, then at Maisie. No, she said. Her voice shook. I should have chosen them sooner. Grant stepped down from the stage. Paige followed him toward the side exit. Before they reached it, Mr. Halverson, the restaurant's longest-serving cook, stood from the front table. He had worked beside Dad for 26 years. Without speaking, he removed the Bennett's market apron from around his waist. He folded it once. Then he placed it on Grant's empty chair and walked out. That was the moment Grant's expression finally broke. Not when the recording played. Not when Mom chose the children. When a man who had loved Dad's restaurant refused to let Grant call cruelty a legacy. I stepped toward the microphone. Grant stopped near the door. I looked at him. You built this room around the word family. My voice remained calm. Tonight your son told everyone what that word cost him. I turned off the microphone. There was nothing else to say. The fundraiser did not continue. We left through the main doors together. No applause. No celebration. Just Owen holding Maisie's hand while I walked beside them. For once the silence belonged to the truth. The months afterward were quieter. There were school meetings, counseling sessions, medical appointments, and nights when Maisie woke frightened by the wind. Grant and Paige's contact with the children remained restricted. Their second restaurant location disappeared. Bennett's Market stayed open, but the crowds faded. Without Paige's perfect photographs and Grant's speeches about legacy, it became what it had always been beneath the image, a tired restaurant carrying a dead man's name. The children remained with me. Owen slowly stopped asking permission before making a sandwich. Maisie stopped hiding crackers beneath her pillow. 6 weeks after the storm, Mrs. Alvarez called. I think I found Copper. We drove to her house immediately. The dog had been living beneath an abandoned deck. He had lost weight and injured one paw, but he was alive. The moment he saw Owen, he began whining. Owen dropped to his knees. Copper pulled free from the leash and climbed into his lap. My nephew buried his face in the dog's fur and sobbed. Not silent tears this time. He cried loudly and helplessly, like the child he had never been allowed to be. I'm sorry, he kept saying. I'm sorry I couldn't find you. I knelt beside him. You brought everyone home that night. He shook his head. I left him. Copper survived because you chose to save Maisie first. Maisie wrapped both arms around them. That evening, the three of them slept on the floor beside Owen's bed. I sat in the hallway listening to their breathing. For once, every breath sounded peaceful. Mom rebuilt her relationship with the children slowly. There were no grand gifts and no instant forgiveness. At the first family counseling session, she looked at Owen and said, I believed your father because it was easier than admitting I had failed you. Owen stared at the carpet. Would you have believed me without the recording? Mom cried. I want to say yes, but I don't know. He nodded. Thank you for not lying. That was all he gave her. She accepted it. 2 years after the storm, we moved into a 3-bedroom house 4 blocks from the children's school. It was not large. The kitchen cabinets were old. The backyard fence leaned in one corner. The upstairs bathroom had tiles in 3 different shades of blue. But each child had a bedroom. Copper had a yard. and the front door was painted bright red. I refused to install a smart lock. We used ordinary metal keys. On our first night, we ate pizza on the living room floor because the table had not arrived. Maisie raised her paper cup. To the red house. Owen raised his. To doors with keys. I lifted mine. To everyone being inside. We tapped our cups together. On my 40th birthday, the children brought me breakfast in bed. The pancakes were burned around the edges. The coffee was weak enough to see through. Owen handed me a long package wrapped in newspaper. We made it at school. Inside was a wooden sign. The letters had been carved by Owen and painted by Maisie. Come in. You're home. I ran my fingers across the words. We thought it should go beside the front door, Maisie said. So nobody gets confused, Owen added. 2 years earlier, he had arrived at my cottage convinced that asking for help would make his father angry. Now he stood in his own home making sure everyone who entered knew they were welcome. We hung the sign beside the red door. There were scratches near the bottom where copper jumped against it. Maisie's muddy shoes sat in the hallway. Owen's baseball bag blocked part of the entrance. The house was noisy, imperfect, and alive. Grant inherited Dad's restaurant. For years, he believed that made him the keeper of our family legacy. For years, I believed it too. But legacy is not a building with your last name above the entrance. It is not a business. It is not a perfect photograph. Legacy is what a child remembers when he is frightened. The voice that answers. The light that stays on. The meal he does not have to earn. And the door that opens before he has to beg. That morning at 4:18, Owen arrived believing he was a burden. Now every time he walked through our red front door, he saw the same words. Come in. You're home. So tell me, when protecting a family's reputation means sacrificing a child's safety, is that still a family worth protecting?